Joan, get me a Snapple.
Welcome back, everybody, to Season 5, the season of encounters. That's right. This week, we're going to go up to Portage County, Ohio. Why would Bigfoot be living in the Ohio Valley? Well, we're going to find that out tonight and use a little bit of links. And, oh, look at that. There's a new quasi-theory by Dean Cooper. So, welcome back, everybody, to the season of encounters. And I am indeed your host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly. And look, we got past the opening theme this week and it didn't crash again. Yes. All right. Oh, yeah. It's the season of encounters and we're sharing some Bigfoot campfire stories with everybody. We have another one of those to wrap it up tonight. So let's get this funkiness started and get a little bit of news out of the way because there's some interesting things going on. Let's see here. There we go. First one's really the dumbest damn thing. Florida zoo employee killed while attempting to rape an alligator. I've heard of bestiality. Moron. Okay, according to Captain Henry White, spokesman of the Naples Police Department, 24-year-old Jimmy Olsen was engaged in full sexual intercourse with one of the younger reptiles when he was surprised by one of the larger animals, which attacked him from behind. Hey, that reach around didn't work so well out there for him. Apparently, the young man was caught by the throat by the alligator who dragged him under the water and drowned him. Jimmy Olsen's death took place around 6 a.m. this morning. So apparently there will be no more pictures of Superman. World News Daily Report, of course. I love these articles. I don't know if they're real. Most likely not. It's fun stuff sometimes, though. Yeah, no more pictures of Superman. Jimmy Olsen is now dead. Hey, Neanderthals used an early version of penicillin and aspirin. Witchcraft, you say? Well, apparently they've gotten some plaque from the teeth of the Neanderthal, and they've done a bunch of investigating into what they were eating and what they were using. Eating like a caveman meant chowing down on woolly rhinos and sheep in Belgium, but munching on mushrooms, pine nuts, and moss in Spain. It all depended on where they lived. New research shows. Scientists got a sneak peek into the kitchen of 3 Neanderthals by scraping off the plaque stuck to their teeth and examining the DNA. What they found was smashes of common public misconception that the caveman diet was mostly meat. They also found hints of one sickly teen used primitive versions of penicillin and aspirin to ease his pain. The dental plaque provides a long record of what went into the Neanderthals' mouths and the bacteria that lived in their guts, said study co-author Alan Cooper, director of the Australian Centre for Ancient DNA in Adelaide. That's cool. I mean, look, they're getting DNA from places who would never have thought, 100 years ago, hey, what's this crushed around the teeth? They're not thinking that they can get DNA out of that. 100 years later, of course, we are. It's. I never would have thought cavemen were all meat. We are not carnivores. We are omnivores. We always have been omnivores. We probably developed from meat eaters into omnivores. I don't know. Who knows at this point? We'll figure it all out when we get the complete fossil record sometime around, I don't know. I think that's like 51,000, the year 51,238 is probably when we'll have a decent understanding of what went on here. But until then, we'll speculate. That's right. Speculate is about all we got. All right, moving right along. Phantom and monsters are Bigfoot outside of America. The possible Bigfoot in Piley's Island, Newfoundland, surprises the Arizona humanoid encounter at the RV park and something else. The possible Bigfoot at Piley's Island, Newfoundland was one that I was actually interested in. They seen something strange at night driving home, and I can't for the life of me figure out what it was. Some say that it was a Newfoundland Bigfoot, and I decided to look it up since I hadn't heard of it here before. That led me to your site and the story from the boys from St. John's. I'd love to share my story, and it's awful long, so I'm not going to read it to you, of course, as one of those places that I get those kinds of stories. It's at phantomandmonsters.com, and it was just posted up there, so you'd be able to pick it up. It's just to show you there are Bigfoot encounters from all over the place still happening. It's not something of old. Okay, land. I don't know what I was reading. The Observer. Wednesday, March 15th. That's right. Bigfoot in the Blues. Scott Violet, who lives in Baker City and grew up in Somerville, plans to search for the beast this summer in the northern Blue Mountains near Tollgate. That's right. There's a plaster cast of a footprint on the wall of Scott Violet's basement, and that sort of thing could give a kid nightmares for weeks. Violet, who lives in Baker City, is wearing camouflage cap and plays with the slogan Sasquatch Hunter. Squatch Hunter, sorry. He walks beneath a sign that welcomes visitors to the Squatchers Lounge. Check that out. I wonder if he's a listener. That would be quite funny. If you're listening out there, Scott Violet, let us know. Because I think the Squatchers Lounge has been around for a while. Anyhow, to get articles like this, every single week there seems to be more and more articles about Bigfooters we've never heard of before. And that I like, because the Bigfooters that we have heard of, most of them are just insane. All right. Including myself. I'm dead nuts crazy for following around with Smeha. I know, I get it. Let's say the independent, is it real or dreamed up? You decide. In the White Mountains, have you ever had the feelings where you're not alone or perhaps being watched while out scouting the forest for game hunt or just enjoying looking around the natural surroundings? Some of us have had that sensation, and yes, over the years, it has been many reports and documentation regarding to what we refer to as Bigfoot. Is it real or is it something that we dream up? That's what you have to decide. And they're speaking about the White Mountains area only. I don't know why you would want to qualify that. It's a basic article on, the naysayer versus the believer and what keeps the believer going. It's pretty short. You can check this one out. It came across my desk, at WMICentral.stfi.re. Yeah, it's up there. You can pause it and actually see it that way. Okay, that gets us through the news already. Look at that. I love it when that happens, because then we don't have to stumble around. So it's time for us once again to get our quasi on from our favorite quasi theorist, Mr. Dean Cooper. And now, quasi theories from a quasi scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
Get out your ice skates, because we're in an ice age. It might not look like it when you look out the window, but we're in the middle of an ice age. Just because the upper half of North America isn't covered by 1.5 to 2.5 miles of cruising glaciers doesn't mean they won't come back. Our current ice age started about 2.5 million years ago, give or take a couple 3 tons of millennia. The last glaciation started about 110,000 years ago and ended about 12,000 years ago. It hit a maximum of ice coverage of North America about 26,000 years ago. Glaciations last about 100,000 years and interglacial periods between 10,000 and 50,000 years, depending. We're past the 10,000 year mark. The ice sheets could start cruising back any time now. What does the timing of ice ages depend on, you might well ask? Depending mainly on where we are in a Milankovitch cycle. What the hell's a Milankovitch cycle, you might well ask? Good old Milutin Milankovitch, the well-known Serbian geophysicist and astronomer. Back in the 1920s, he took all the known data about the Earth's orbit, how it varies from nearly a circle to slightly elliptical, how that orbit also wobbles up and down like a spinning coin at the end of its spin, and the fact that as the Earth spins about its axis, that axis also wobbles about a bit. He took all that and figured out that since all this affects how much sunlight hits the continents during the changing seasons, that effect was that when the axial tilt was steepest, the Earth's orbit was most elliptical, and we got colder. Earth is known to have had 5 serious ice ages in its 4 billion plus year history. A couple of them made Earth resemble the ice planet Hoth, except for some areas around the equator. No fossil towns have been discovered as of yet. Milankovich's theory matched what was known about ice ages back in the 1920s, more or less. These days it has been modified by throwing in continental drift, which is merely an unproven hypothesis back when he was hypothesizing away. Where the continents are affects the ocean currents, which affects the distribution of heat around the planet, etc., etc., etc. Now there's a moving image for you. Continents scooting around, the planet wobbling on its axis while whipping around the sun, orbit stretching back and forth while wobbling up and down, throw in the fact that the whole solar system bobs up and down across our galaxy's equator while orbiting around the galaxy. Makes you wonder why you aren't all nauseated. Hey, maybe that's why there are volcanoes. Our Mother Earth, good old Gaia, gets spin dizzy and just needs to barf occasionally. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. That's BHAIDIN.com.
That's right. Thank you there, Dean. Another great one. I wonder why we can stand up straight or drive a car down a lane at all. Very, very strange stuff indeed. Hey, this is where you get to have your chance to start here in the Squatchers Lounge podcast, because I come out here and say hi to all you crazy people that are watching this mess in internet land. So if you haven't said hi in the chat box out there, I don't really know you're here. So say hi. I'll say hi back. Hey, look, there. It's Rod Dupree. He's always in the place to be. We got Miss Starshine stopping in as well. There's a Mr. Jason Gerd. How are you doing, sir? Hanging out with us on a Wednesday night here at the Squatchers Lounge podcast hangout. Squatch Box is in the house again. Glad you could join us. You know, if you friend me on Facebook, I'll send you the link to the after hangout, and you can try and get into it that way. Let's see here. Who else is here? Are now batting third, our center fielder, Mr. Gert Harris. How you doing there, Patty? Glad you're feeling well enough to join us tonight. Let's see who else is here. There's a Cody Jonaway. I don't believe I've seen that one before. So, hey, glad you could join us here in the Squatchers Lounge on Wednesday night. Let's see here. Mr. Dick Jones. He's finally back with us again. Oh, yeah, there's something on the microphone. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's me. Glad you're hanging out there. Let's see. I know there's more. Mr. Collier Wilmus. That's right. If you haven't been checking out his live FX shows, you should definitely check him out. His interviews are fantastic. Plus, he sculpted a live Bigfoot on the air for like 3 sessions, so it was pretty friggin' neat. And I think that's really probably going to do it for anybody else. If you haven't said hi by now, I can't say hi back. Oh, wait, there's JWR Gaming. He wanted to know how he could send in an encounter, and I'll tell you all right here live on the air. If you have an encounter that you'd like me to read on the air, or you'd like me to look into, or need some help with, if you'd like me to look at anything, send it to sloungepodcast@gmail.com, and I will get back to it. I check that mail every single day. So, saying that, send me whatever you'd like to, even if it's a picture of your butt. I don't know why you would do that, but some people do. Hey, Robert Shatter got late checking in, but I didn't miss him because there he is. And I think Station Design, they're checking in late as well, so I wanted to say hi. It happens like that. They're like, oh my goodness, I gotta leave a message or he won't know I'm here. That's exactly how all of that works. Hey, the dates for the Squatchers Lounge podcast, Bigfoot investigation days in the Sierras are going to be announced here very soon. I'm working out the the permanent dates as we're speaking. So stay tuned here each week. It's a matter of getting a flight into Sacramento, and we'll figure out how to get you to the mountains. Renting a car is not all that expensive, and it's only a couple of hours from here. So, I've got a couple of spots left in my car. We'll figure it all out. If you want to come into Sacramento and go squatching with the Reverend this summer, it's going to be middle to late August, early September at the latest. So if you can get those dates off, consider coming out here to California, and we'll get you up into the mountains where real Bigfoot roam. Isn't that the point to all this? Real Bigfoot. Anyhow, right about now is where we get back to it. Tonight we're going to Portage County, Ohio. Why aren't you over there at Salt Fort State Park? Well, everybody goes to Salt Fort State Park, but in fact, according to the official Bigfoot encounter page, Portage County has more Bigfoot encounters than any other county in Ohio. So I figured we would start out there, and it's kind of tied into our Bigfoot campfire story at the end of the show. So let's take a look at the official encounters according to some people who call themselves officials. Sorry about that. Had to wet my lips for a moment. I talk for a living. Okay. Year, possibly 1962. They're kind of shaky on it because they told the story, 50 years later or 60 years later, like it always happens. In the state of Ohio, Portage County, close to Audubon Sanctuary near Pioneer Trail Road. The nearest town, of course, is Aurora, Ohio. They were riding their bike in the Audubon Wilderness area. He was 10 or 11 years old. As I entered, I saw a strange man walking south towards the road, towards Pioneer Trail, maybe 50 yards from me. I do not remember seeing the lower half of the body. After a while, I realized that it was not a man. I remember reddish hair appearance, became very frightened, and left quickly. I don't remember any other details about this animal's appearance. Had no idea of what I saw at the time. Bigfoot was an unknown concept. In fact, never associated the experience with Bigfoot until recently. Because, of course, up until, in 1958, we started finding, footprints around Bluff Creek and, Jerry Crew and the stories of all of that. We've talked about all of that until we're, dead in the friggin' head. But we'll bring that stuff back up again because it's fun. It wasn't until 1967 that we had a real idea of what a Sasquatch should look like. At least a female Sasquatch that probably just gave birth or was pregnant. One or the other. Anyhow, I'm not going to speculate too much on all of that because I ain't no scientist. But stories like this coming around from 62 just kind of validate the fact that even on the other side of the country, people were still seeing strange, upright walking, bipedal apes that make no sense. Why? Because they were here before us, and we're seriously just encroaching on all of their area. All right, so let's take a look at another one here. The year was 1994, winter, February, Portage County again. Closest town was Edinburgh this time. Nearest roads are Route 5 and Greenland Road. The winter of 94, Jay Lake area, West Branch State Park. A friend and I were fishing a pond. The pond was mostly frozen over except for a spot in the middle, which we were casting bait into. I don't know how long we were there fishing, but across the pond, a figure stood up from the shoreline and walked up a steep hill until it got to the top and turned back to look at us. The figure was large, covered in hair, walked on two legs. It was winter, the pond was frozen, and the figure wore no clothes. There was no way it was a human. We were around 15 years old, and we took off since we were scared by the encounter. We viewed the figure for maybe 1 or 2 minutes. They also noticed that the figure made no noise when it walked up the hill, then turned back and looked at us. The figure didn't run away. It just walked. So that was, 1994, far more, 30 years later from the 62 encounter. Now, these are all Class A encounters that I picked out for tonight's episode, of course. Let's see here. Summer 1994. Again, from the corner of 183 and 224. The incident occurred in the town of Saltwater, Ohio. One day in the late afternoon, my sister and I climbed on my motorcycle and headed back to what was once the strip mines. I frequently rode there and knew every bit of it. We had just rounded a corner where we were headed north when we noticed south of us two I don't know how to indicate question mark or quotation marks around people. Uh, I immediately assumed it was one of my friends with his dad, and they were big guys. But when I turned the bike around and headed towards them at this point, they were quite a distance away. As we got closer, a strange transformation took place in my mind. What had been my friend took on a different appearance altogether. I remember feeling strange because my previous thoughts were being replaced with as we got closer. At some point, we realized that it was not my friend, and with the seconds after that, we saw them enough to get the details. They were indeed two large, covered with hair, and looked very human. They were not bears for two reasons: their faces and the way they left on two legs. Years later, I saw the Patterson film for the first time, and it struck me as that was the type of animal that looked at us that particular day. When these two beings looked at us, they also turned their upper body with their head to see us. As soon as I realized that we were looking at two huge, two-legged things looking at us, I immediately got scared. Right after, they looked at us, and we had gone into the woods. We coasted up to the next spot, and my sister reached up and turned off the bike. I protested. In the distance, we heard distinctly branch breaking as if something snapped them off as it ran. I also remember thinking that the snapping sound was deeper, as if whatever was breaking was larger than a typical twig. They restarted the bike and ran for home. It wasn't until later that they even thought about Bigfoot. But I must stress, we saw them in the day, and we saw them close enough to know what we saw. You know, you got a brother and a sister combination. Usually you can't get two people to corroborate the same thing that would be able to come forward and actually talk to them. I don't see any follow-up on that particular report. Let's take a look at another one here. 1995 in October, the fall of 1995. Sorry, I had to reload the page because it was white, so it's just taking me a moment to get the info here. I'm not living in a van down by the river, at least not yet. Mid-October 1995, nearest road was State Route 700. I was driving my car up a hill about 60 miles per hour when up ahead at the top, I saw what I thought was a man carrying a bundle of sticks about 8 feet tall overall across the road. Wow, 8 foot tall. I reached the spot very quickly. It was quite surprised to find nobody there. I actually slowed down to be cautious and decided that nobody could have moved away that quickly, especially someone carrying a heavy load of sticks. I'm a person who likes to have answers, and it's bothered me for 7 years. It was when I found out about Bigfoot sightings in Ohio that I actually put the incident and Bigfoot together. I must admit that I've never believed in Bigfoot, but taking into account all the hair samples and endorsement by Jane Goodall, I must say that I think I saw one from a distance of about 200 feet. And this is the only logical conclusion that I can find. And that's the important thing. People forget. It's not what it could be. There's 1,000 things that make it yes. As soon as there's one thing that makes it not a Bigfoot, it's not a Bigfoot. But when all the other answers point to that conclusion, well, then that's what the conclusion you have to come to. I don't believe in vampires, but damn it, that's a vampire. You know, I don't believe in Sam Squatch, but damn it, I saw Sam Squatch. So I don't know what to do with myself now. Just bottle it up inside and just never talk about it. So let's go back out here and take a quick peek at what you guys are looking at here. You know, this looks like all city, but it's really not. These are the farmlands that come off of Cleveland and Akron, Youngstown, Ohio. This is the Ohio Valley. You know, this is coming down out of the Appalachian Mountains. If we kick it over to Google Earth, that gives us a whole lot different appearance to what we're looking at here all of a sudden. And it becomes, oh, yeah, that's right. That all used to be one giant forest before the Europeans came over here and cut everything down to California. So any relic populations that would have been here during those times are probably still stuck in those kind of areas. And that's what makes it difficult for people to believe that Bigfoot could still be around. But again, like I said, when you get out here into Portage County, you're really nowhere near any of these major cities. You're out in the farmlands where there is tree coverage that would allow them to move from place to place. Do I think there's thousands of them running around out here? No, but there very well could be dozens of them running around out here. And that's more this southwest corner where we've been talking about, Atwater, Edinburgh. There's the West Branch State Park right there. So you look at what you're dealing with in the long run. This is pretty much the trap between the sprawl between Akron and Warren. It's like a last haven of Bigfoot activity. Last encounter I actually have coming out of that area for the night was, I believe, in the year of 2003 for a Class A, and there is a Class B from 2011, and I'll share both of those with you. The Class A, the last Class A that's actually listed from 2003, they didn't want to release the nearest road and the details specifically because they're still investigating there, apparently. Different occasions with the creature. Oh, yes. This one, you're going to love this one. Going encounters with Fang on old family land. Now, these are the ones that make it far less viable, but they're still, for some reason, part of the official record. I don't know. Anyhow, he says, I myself have had many different occasions with the creature I have dubbed Fang. I have come to understand through self-experience that there is more than one creature in our area. I go hiking quite often in the same area and know exactly where they usually are, as they tend to follow me most of the times I am there. My mother told me today about your website, and I felt obliged to write. I fear of people coming in our area and trying to find Fang and his clan. I feel somewhat of an understanding and a protective closeness, and I feel that they should be left alone. Anyone who has the wonderful experience of seeing one of these with their own eyes knows the truth. The world would only want to capture and destroy them if given the chance, I fear. I would be willing to talk with someone about my experiences, but I do not really want to tell everyone due to my beliefs. My children have heard their cries out in the woods, and we have gotten rather close enough for them to smell them many times. Just last week, my younger son and I found footprints in the woods by a thicket too dense for us to walk to. Yeah. So, again, with great claim needs to come great evidence. And there's no evidence of any of this. I mean, I know the story's been on here since apparently 2003. It's just one of those things that no one's able to follow up with it. I know where the Sasquatch are. I can't take you there. It sounds like the old Todd Standing thing. Yeah, I know exactly where the Bigfoot are, but you got to crawl on your belly in a ghillie suit for like 3.5 days so they don't slaughter you. And then once you get there, then you can't take any video of them because they'll know. So, yeah, I can't take you there. Okay, brah? And finally, the last one here comes out from the year 2011. That's right, 2011. Mogador Lake Reservoir, 30 feet to the right of the launching ramp. That's right, Lansinger Road. Going fishing last year at Mogador Reservation off of Rainfield Road, late night around 1 a.m. in the morning. We had caught a couple of catfish. I was going to say, you better be catfishing if you got that late. A 7-pound and a 15-pound. My truck was parked roughly 20 feet behind us. Throughout the night, I heard tree knocks and calls. not common to the area. When I heard a few getting closer, we decided to leave. When I went to the back of the truck where we kept our gear and the fish, the 7-pound catfish was gone. We looked around the truck and the area to see if it had hopped out and saw nothing. Because catfish will do that to you. Catfish will hop right out your bucket and go walking back towards the water. It's the craziest thing. I don't know how they know it's there. While searching, my partner was hit on the chest with a small rock, leaving a $50 size mark. Well, we packed up and left as fast since we felt very scared at that point. I came back to the location a couple of times since then and noticed trails and branches that were twisted and snapped that couldn't be done by normal means. I've encountered things in southern and mid-Ohio previously, and all I could determine was this was another close encounter. Now, of course, this type of encounter is far, far more believable than, we would want to listen to any of the, many encounters with Fang. I like the idea of Bigfoot in Ohio. I really do. Like I said, the America used to be one giant forest until we cut that all down. If those animals are there now, those animals have been there for 1,000 years. Those animals have been there for 1,000 years. What's happening to them at this point, I don't know. How many of them are left? I don't know. Are they crossbreeding? I don't know. Do they have 3 toes? I don't know, because we haven't killed any of them yet. So if we can start to use these type of data points that are out there, obviously, though, and start to seek in the right places, where we narrow into a place like Portage County, where we can all of a sudden get 100 square mile block of where all of these encounters come from, and then get those people who research or investigate in those areas to actually look into those areas, then possibly we can stir up more encounters, get something on video or HD, something really good, and maybe not have to kill one so fast. But eventually, that's still going to end up being the only answer, sadly, is we're going to have to put a couple of them on the table before anybody out there in the world is actually going to believe that these things exist, even though science says it's true. Or science isn't always right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us this season of encounters tonight. That's right, season 5. And we're going to finish off with another Bigfoot campfire story. This time, a farmer watches a juvenile Bigfoot slaughter a turkey right in front of him. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I'll throw the link out in the Hangout as soon as I stop broadcasting. And may the Squatch be with you. What the hell is that? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that was a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. This story was told to me by an older man by the name of Pete. Now, Pete was a farmer that lived up on the hill from my uncle. And he claimed to have several strange visits a few times a year. This was one of those visits. The wife and I had been out walking the fence line, checking for breaks in the barbed wire fence. Every fall around Thanksgiving, we ended up finding several breaks in the wire. We had been out most of the morning, and so far everything was fine. But when we got to the top of the ridge, sure enough, it was plowed down. Not broken or cut, like something just stepped right on it and knocked it down, posts and all. Odd to say the least, but that was just the start of the odd things that day. We noticed a set of deep tracks in the grass leading down the path. My wife, well, to say the least, she was a little frightened, so I told her to stay put with the shotgun, and I took my pistol and followed the tracks down into the pasture. Well, it wasn't very long before the path gave way to the pasture meadow, and sure enough, I could see something moving down by the pond. And I pulled up my field glasses to get a better look, and I caught a glimpse of some turkeys moving down towards the pond. And sure enough, something else was watching them too. Well, holy sheep shit, that's a little Sasquatch. That thing ran up so fast behind one of them female turkeys and just snatched her up by the neck and ran into the woodline by the pond. Well, I couldn't believe my eyes. No way anything moved that fast. I say it was a little one because it didn't look to be but 4 or 5 feet tall. Well, it went down on all fours and tore off after that turkey. Well, I stalked around the meadow's edge, hoping to get another look at it. I took my time, hoping that not to be noticed, but not so long that it would be gone either. I peeked my head up over that last little ridge, and I could see the thing just sitting there squatting between two big roots of a tree. He had that turkey just torn into pieces, feathers kind of stacked in piles to the side, not strewn about. He was yanking on the meat, just eating it with his hands. Well, it wasn't all that big, covered completely in hair, kind of goofy long arms, kind of made it look comical. It kept turning its hips to look over its shoulder as it tore and ate at the flesh. The head was kind of set into the shoulders, very little if no neck whatsoever, and low grunts came from it as it ate and looked around. But I backed down from the ridge, and stupid me cracked a stick, and, well, I went to get a little better position. Just as I did, a strange whoop, like a monkey at the zoo. I heard it running off. As I got back to the top where I could see it, I noticed a slightly bigger one had joined it running through the meadow. They were both on all fours, just tearing towards the far wood line. They disappeared out of sight. Yeah, that's when I realized they were heading towards the wife. Well, I picked up, started running towards her where I left her, and pretty quick, that's when I heard her scream and the shotgun go off. Boy! Well, I quickened my pace and I found her off to the side where I'd left her. She said 2 little hairy men and a big hairy naked woman come running up the hill. When she saw them, she screamed and pulled the trigger. The blast went off into the air and scared them off. She said sure enough they were gone so fast she'd never even seen that they were coming or where they went to. Well, it was time to fix this fence and get the hell back to the house, that was for sure. We went ahead and reloaded the shotgun, and the wife sat there and stood watch while I put the fence back up. I swear for the first 10 minutes or so, something was just out of sight making noises and talks and sticks towards us. It was like watching a gorilla at the zoo when they're pissed off. Well, I finished up quick enough, and the wife and I kind of hightailed it back to the house. I'd always wondered what was visiting us, but I wasn't really sure. The wife wants to go through that no more. That, she said. Since then, she sends our son Joe out with me on the fence walks to make sure we get them fixed up soon enough. Well, Pete and his wife got an eyeful that day. Be careful of the answers that you seek. Sometimes the questions are best left unanswered. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you.